Okay, good day. So for today, we are going to have a recorded discussion on our topic, lesson number 2 in repetition control structures. So as we have discussed last meeting, so we have introduced what is a repetition control structures. In layman's term, this is considered as once there are certain parts or statements of our code that we wanted it to be executed multiple times. So we can control it using a repetition control structure. This is very different to, or should we say, at some point, having or sharing similar context to the previous chapter, which is on the decision control structures, which we can control the code or specific statements or part of the code if will be executed or not. Again, for the chapter number 7, repetition control structures, we have a capability or we can control the codes if we want to repeat it once, twice, thrice, 5 times, 100 times, 2 million times, depending on the need of the problem. So also, what we discussed last meeting is there are also different loops in Java in which we are going to start now. So these are the following the types of loops in Java. First is the while loop, second is the do while, and the third is the for loop. We have already introduced this one also last meeting. Okay, for today we are going to focus on the while loop. We discussed also last meeting are the components of a loop. This is very important and integral, especially if you are coding for a loop. So all students should be able to understand, should be able to identify the functions of this one. If you still have questions or still don't understand the difference between these components, you need to go back to our previous video in order for you to be reintroduced and to be discussed on the following components of a loop. So initialization, condition, the increment or decrement, and the statement. So as mentioned, we are going to start the discussion today with the lesson number 2, which is on the while loop. Okay. So now, the while loop is a repetition control structure that allows a code to be repeated based on a given condition. Okay. Now, this looping statement is also considered as a repeating if statement. So if you're familiar with if, which we discussed as part of the decision control structure, this is considered now as a repeating if and is used when the number of the iteration is not fixed. So if you don't know exactly, although at some point we can use the while loop if we know how many times, but most likely this will be on the idea of we don't know the number of iterations. So this is where the while loop is best used. So let's just review on a flowchart na level na pseudocode. So we have here, so for the process, we have the condition. So if the condition is true, it will go for the statement. So whatever statement that will be executed repeatedly. Then here comes the increment and decrement, and it goes loop back to the condition again. If the condition satisfies, still true, again it will go into loop back, and so on and so forth until such time the condition becomes false, which makes the loop to be exited, or it exits the loop and continue with other programs. Now, as we have also discussed, there is what we call as an infinite loop. So an infinite loop is where a loop is not terminated or it will not exit. So it will be on a continuous loop. Okay. Now, the infinite loop is being caused by several reasons. The condition itself, or the increment or decrement, or at some point, there are parts of the code that were given, or the code part itself is logically incorrect. That makes the code repeat and repeat without certain termination or exit na point. Okay? So the while loop is declared, or the syntax of the while loop is as follows. So we have the initialization, which is the component. Second is the while. The while is just the keyword in Java. We have open and close parentheses similar to if. Then we have open curly brace and close curly brace. Inside the parentheses of the while, is the condition. This is where you set the condition. Again, as we discussed previously, conditions is any statement or operations that should result in either true or false. Then we have the statement here. How the number of statement and what statements to be entered here depends on you and depends on the problem, of course. And we have the increment and decrement. Okay, as we have discussed also, the increment or decrement depends on how the programmer wants to move the counter or specific process of our loop. So for example, you wanted to run for a certain number of functionalities or repetitions, you have the condition, then the increment and decrement at some point. This is optional at some point, but for repeating codes, there will be counter based on your conditions. This will make a certain value of a variable that will make eventually false and will terminate the loop at some point. Again, case-to-case basis, because there are some loop that will not going to require an increment or a decrement. Okay, so let's proceed with practice coding. Okay, so a sample problem. So write a program to print hello world 5 times using the while loop. Okay, let's go back to our syntax. So we have the initialization, condition, statement, and increment. So that's here. So let's, I guess it's open this one. So a compiler, an IDE. Okay, to zoom this one. Okay. So now again, the components of the loop are arranged as identified there. Okay. So if you want to make a while loop out of that one, then literally follow the syntax of the code. Okay. So the problem is to print hello world 5 times. Okay. Now, actually, we can just do this one, system.out print. So I guess we don't look for this one. Hello world. Then we just get copy and paste this one. It's going to have to remove the indentation part. Okay. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now as you can see here, I didn't use any loop. However, I just use the 5 print system at print statement. So basically, it will solve the problem. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, but however, as we discussed last meeting also, we do this, okay lang siguro na siya kapag we have small number of repetitions or we have this specific problem na grabe ka basic and can be solved by this one. However, again, learning loop also, you need to understand also to try loop in the basic nga mga problems in order for us to try to grasp what's the purpose of the loop, how loop should be written, and after we'll proceed then with advanced problems that we are using the loop and we cannot use any other ways to solve the problem. Okay, so let's have int I is equal to 0. Okay, then we have the keyword while. Inside the while is we have the what we call as the condition. Then we have the open and close curly brace. Then we're going to have the print, which is what we call as, let's say, hello world. Okay. I want to put ln here so that after the word world is printed, then it will going to print a line. Okay. So let's proceed with our condition. So let's say I is less than to 5. Okay. So if I is less than to 5, then this one will be printed. Since our I is equal to 0, then the condition here is I is less than to 5. 0 is less than to 5. The answer is true, right? So it will print the statement. Then again, this is loop. So it goes back to the condition. So I again is equal to 5. Then it prints again. No, less than to 5 again. Then it will go back to the condition. Is still I less than to 5. Yes, then the statement will be printed. I says it always will be equal to 0 and will be always less than to 5 given that the I is being declared as 0. Okay? So this is what we call as the infinite loop. So let me just run this one to give you an idea. So I'm going to run this one. As you have observed, the code is still running and continuously printing hello world, hello world, hello world, hello world. You can see here, the navigation bar is very small na, and it continues to drop to the lowest part as it continues to print hello world, hello world, hello world. We're just going to stop it here. Okay, the process stop. But if we did not terminated the loop by the compiler, we still continue to print hello world. Now again, what happens here is what we call as the infinite loop. It continues to execute and continues to execute again and over again because our condition here is always true. For while loop, while the condition is true, it will execute this, and this until such time the condition becomes false. So what we did here is, since we declare I is equal to 0, then I is less than to 5, because 0 is less than to 5, true, continue and print and print and print and dayon. Okay. So sir, let's try to make it 5 in order para ma-execute siya mag-infinite loop. So if we try to run the code, observe that the result will be process exited. No printing at all. Why? I is equal to 5. Now, the condition here is I less than to 5? Is 5 less than to 5? Then the result is false. Now, the statement is false, or I mean the condition is false, meaning the loop will not be executed. It will just pass through the loop, continue whatever the code here, if you still have codes available here or written after the loop is declared. So that's a wrong solution to the answer. The first is infinite loop. The second has what we call this one as no answer. So basically, this is the starting point where we can have a correct answer. However, we need one component. Okay? The last component is the increment or the decrement. Now, to make our condition false at some point, we're going to add a statement here, which is what we call as increment or decrement. Going back to the syntax, we have the initialization, then the condition, then the statement, and we have here missing passing increment and decrement. This is the purpose of increment or decrement in this problem. Now, we are going to make the value of I to a certain point na ma-false siya once i-execute or i-validate siya. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a value of 1 to I. Again, this is increment na operator. It means I is equal to I plus 1. Okay? So that's that is how we understand it. Okay? So just going to remove that 1. So I now plus. So once we try to run the code, okay, so we have here process exited. How many hello worlds printed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And definitely, it answers or it solves the problem. Sir, why is it yung nag-work ang ato ang loop? Okay, simple. At the start of our loop, at the beginning here sa line 5, the value of I is equal to 0. At line 6, nag-start ang loop. So, kanina part na magbalik-balik. Okay, so, is 0 less than to 5? The answer is true. So, this will be printed. Now, after na-print siya, we execute this one. So, I plus plus. What is the current value of your I? The current value of your I is 0. Plus plus is 1. So, here, now our I becomes 1. It will not go back here because di man na siya part sa imuhang loop. Nirira na siya sa condition. Okay? Now, 1 is 1 less than to 5. The answer is true. So, gi-execute niya for the second time. Plus plus. So, your I becomes 2. Is 2 less than to 5? That's true. Print plus plus. So, you have 3. Is 3 less than to 5? True. Execute plus plus. You have 4. Is 4 less than to 5? True. Print, then plus plus. Now, our I becomes 5. Is 5 less than to 5. The answer is false. It will terminate the loop. It will exit dayon. Continue if ever na i-code. For this one, wala. So mag-exit ang imuhang loop na dayon or ang imuhang program. So to make this one, so katong mga kailangan og visual nga needs. For example, the value of your I. Okay. When the value of your I is 0, 0 less than 5, the result is true. Then kapag true, i-print niya si hello world. Okay? Now, the plus plus din ta. So here, ang gibuhat nato diri din is nag-I plus. So pag I plus plus nato ana, meaning our I becomes from 0 to 1. So 1. So next line ana is 1 less than to 5. Okay? The result same, true. So it will print again the statement na hello world. Oops. Now, I plus plus again. Here, pag I plus plus, pagbalik na po niya sa loop na po dayon, dito sa condition, is your I becomes 2. Is 2 less than to 5. The answer is same, true gihapon. Then, the result is hello world. Another I plus plus. Okay. Now, your I becomes 3. Is 3 less than 5. Then, the result is true. Then, kaya na po nang i-print na po dayon si hello world and I plus plus. Now, 3 plus 1 is 4. So, is 4 less than 2? 5. The result is true. Okay? So, the code prints again the hello world and I plus plus. Now, I now becomes 5. So, is 5 less than to 5? Then, the result is false. Since false naman siya, it will no longer print this part and it will no longer execute this part. So once we go back sa pag-trace nato, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Exactly similar ani 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nga output. So if you're going to code for a loop, you need to consider imong starting, which is what we call as your initialization, your condition, and of course, your increment or decrement, depending on the same case. Another solution could be, sir, nga nag-start tag 0. Yes, we can start by 1. Pero kung mag-start tag 1, run nato ni, we're going to observe that ang ato ang execution is kulang. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lang i-print niya. Why? Pag abot niya ani, so 1 man to, di ba? So let's try. Let's trace. If ang I daw nag-start og 1, so we have the same nga yapon na kuan. So if I is initialized as 1, okay, so 1 ang atong value sa I is 1 less than to 5. Again, that's true. So mag-print siya og hello world. Then I plus plus. There I becomes 2. So kapag 2 si I is 2 less than to 5. Okay? So the result is same, true. Then it will print hello world, another I plus plus, your I becomes 3. Okay, so it's 3 less than to 5. The result is same, true. It will print hello world, another I plus plus. Now, your I becomes 4. So kapag 4 is 4 less than to 5. The result is, of course, it's true. Then again, it will print the hello world and another I plus plus for increment. Now, 5. Now, is 5 now less than to 5? Okay? For this time, the result is false. So, pila ang na-print niya nga hello world? 1, 2, 3, and 4 only. Okay? So, muna siya nga atong result diri is 4. If you want to make this one as to 5, nga mag-start tag I, you can be either change this one to less than to 6 or it could be equal to 5. So, is I is less than or equal to 5. Once we run it, we'll be expecting to have 5 hello worlds being printed. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is how we establish a code dial. Okay. So if we wanted, say for example, sir, I want to print 100 lines of hello world. So it's going to have 1. Or gusto nimo nga mag I is equal to 0 ka, mag-start to 0, then you can have I is less than to 100. But we're going to run it. You will be given 100 lines of code. If you want to count, you do the counting. But for me, I'm pretty sure that Java will print 100 hello worlds based on this condition or based on this looping na structure. Okay? So, okay. So, let's proceed with our another topic here, another problem. Okay? So, similar nga output tracing. Okay. So, here. So, write the program to print to print the number 1 to a user-defined number. Okay? So the program requires the user to enter a whole number, then prints the number up to the whole number entered by the user, incremented by 1. Okay? Note that the assumed value of the user input is positive and whole numbers. So, pasabot ani nga problem is mag-require tag user input from the value from the user. So mag-input si user og 10, ang i-print nimo is from 1 to 10. Okay? So for example, if the user enters 5, sayop ni, it should be 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Dapat ang ana ang output dayon sa imuhang program. Okay, 5 man ang gi-enter, mag-start sa 1 plus 1. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Let's try that one sa code. Okay, just going to copy this one. Oops. While problem 2. Okay. Just change this one para mapadali lang ta. Okay. So, now, ato kailangan na user input. I hope still remember user input. So, import Java that scanner. Okay. Tapos, we are going to have maliban sa variable declaration, we also need to declare an object. Object scan is equal to new scanner. You have system.in. Okay, so we're just going to have a print here. So enter a number. Okay. Tapos we'll have another variable. So let's say int number is equal to next, we have the object scan first. That next. Okay. So, part niya po na siya sa initialization na to. Ang problem diri is i-print niya ang number from 1 to to the number specified by the user. Okay. So, to solve the problem, simple lang na siya. Okay. Instead nga i-define nato ni ang kaning value mo ni siya ang ato ang i-assign dito sa number nga gi-enter ni user. Meaning mag-run ang loop from 0 up to sa number nga gihatag ni user. For example, ira na to ni. But we're not going to solve the problem pa kay hello world to may maprintan. So for example, mag-enter kong 2, so dapat hello world. Okay? So dapat ang ma-print diri is 1, ang ma-print diri is 2. Okay? Let's have a separator sa result. Just going to copy this one. So ako magbutang lang ko og separator sa tong code. Para ma-separate nato ang result from the input. Okay? So input yung 3, dapat hello world. Yung problema nato ano is print. I'm just going to have it put an ln here para ma-plus star 3. So you have hello world. But it should be 1, it should be 2, it should be 3. Okay, but at least our loop is working. So, simple na kaya ang solution din, ani. So, instead of hello world, ang ato i-print is ang value, di ba? So, kung ma-print tag 1, ang ma-print ana niya is permente, tawag ani, 1 lang po. So, enter number 5. Maghatag ra siya og 5 ka book 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no. We're just going to print the value of your I. Because ang value sa imong I mo man ang ka-change from 0 to the value number. So, let's start. Let's try. So, I. So, nakagets ani nga problem karon. Kabalo mo nga di na siyang sakto. Okay? So, when I say enter 5, ang print niya 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sir, ang atong kailangan is mag-start siya sa 1 up to the value gihatag ni user. Okay? Since 5 man, dapat the result will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dili 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, what we're going to do here is, ato na i-change into 1. Para ang first na i-print niya is 1. Okay? Let's run the code. Pero still, kung nakabantay mo, it will still not solve the problem. Paghapon, kay kulang 1, 2, 3, 4. Ganun 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Because nag-start ta sa 1, para sa akong case ang taga problem ganina, nag-start ta sa 1, 4 lang yung i-print. So, could be kani will work with this one, will work with this one. Okay? So, here, I change the condition to is I is less than or equal to the number. With this one, we'll solve na dayon the problem. Okay? 5. So the result is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I'm going to enter a random number, a random, let's say for example, 5-digit number. Okay? Let's say to wait the code to finish. Ayun. So, that is from 1 to 13,257. If you want to check it from 1 up to 13,257, then it might take a while. So, that is the problem. That is how we solve the problem. Okay? Ang basic adto niya nga version is ingani. So, kung dili hello world, to i-print lang nato ang value niya, the current value, ato na bilang ng time. Okay? Kung I nga na anang i-print niya is I lang pod, right? So, we are going to print the value of the variable. So, kani, so, kung sa i-print alin niya. Okay? So, I is equal to 0, I is less than or less than to 5, then print din siya. So, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, parang ang case kanina. So, we start with 1 here. Kung ang problem, it start sa 1. Tapos, you can either put this one to less than to 6 or less than or equal to 5. Depende. Both will give you a correct answer to print 1 to 5. Okay? So for this problem, medyo complex lang siya gamay because we indicated here nga instead na kita nagbuot sa 6 nga fix kaning 6. For the second problem, ang value is depende sa gihatag ni user. So dependent siya sa execution nga gi-allow or gi-require ni user nga iparan ang imuhang problem. Okay. So I hope nakasabtan na siya. Okay. So now, write a program to enter a number. So then the program then prints hello world the number of times as the user input. So pag mag-enter sa user og 10, dapat na ay 10 kabuok pod nga hello world. Kung mag-enter sa user og 5, na apoy 5 kabuok nga hello world. I guess we already solved that the problem, but let's work. Okay. So while problem 3.java. Okay. So, sige. Let's start from the sa scratch yun. While problem 3. Okay. And you have the main method here. So, mo print daw si what they call was print og hello world the number of times nag-enter ni user ang tawag ani ang value, same value with the number of print na hello world. So, let's just process or let's just put the import here. Java.field scanner. Tapos we have here as the object for the scanner. So let's say object scan is equal to new scanner. You have system.in. Okay. So we have, for example, int number or input. Okay, let's use input for this. Go to 0. Then we're going to require the user to input a value. Okay. So system enter a number. Okay. Then input is equal to object scan dot next int. Using next int because it's an integer. Okay. Ayun. So I guess we can familiar naman kayo mo mag-code. Then we'll know nga kana siya is hopefully working properly without any problem. Okay. And then number 5. Okay, so the run works perfectly without problem. So let's include the code na dayon for the loop. So again, as mentioned, mo-print siya as many times as gihatag ni user dayon. So let's use the while loop. So int I is equal to, let's have it equal to 0. It could be equal to 1. Okay? Then while. So ang atong condition dayon is I is less than to the value of our input. Okay? Tapos, we're going to have here katong print. Okay. Oops. Lower. Then, don't forget iteration. I++. Okay. Then, try to run the code. Initialization, condition, then we have the iteration. So, if I'm going to enter 2, I will be expecting 2 hello worlds. If I'm going to enter 5, I will be expecting to have 5 hello worlds. Just check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or maybe if I want to have a value na 999, then there will be 999 na hello worlds being printed. Okay. So, ang condition na nato lang na siya. Ang condition nato gibase nato sa gi-enter ni user dayon. Okay? So, yeah, I guess that's all for the while loop. Again, for the while loop, because we've been discussing lahi pa nga mga structures. So the while is being declared as this one. So dire ta ang initialization, tapos na-add dire ang imong condition, tapos you don't forget to include also what we call as the statement or ato yung pabalik-balik na itong code. And of course, increment or increment. Okay? Nine times nga no need na ni siya, depende sa problem. Okay? But we're going to have that one on the do while. Okay? Dito na siya mas na ay tawag ani nga mas plausible siya ng mga problems. Although there are problems that can be solved also with one. Okay? So again, this is lesson number 2 of chapter number 7. Naay activity, check the Google Forms and also check the attached nga activity nga mga worksheets for you to answer. Okay? If you have questions, i-chat na lang sa group chat or tawag ani what do you call this one? Raise na lang during sa ato ang online na classes. And don't forget to write your name in the comments for checking of attendance. Thank you.